Welcome back. I'm Luke. Welcome back to Leicester City Down Under. Thank you for tuning in. Here today with my guest, we have Jeff. Good to have you back, mate. How are you?
How's it going? Look, feeling much better. Start off the new week, all positives with this victory.
All positives, a little bit less squeaky bum time, eh, Jeff?
Yeah. Game by game.
Game by game. Look, mate, before we touch on this game, the overall mood of where this club's been, in particular this whole FFP issues and drama, it could not have come at a worse time. And I was really worried that the players were starting to feel that as well, because back 20 years ago, people would just read the paper from journalists and stuff like that. Now everyone's got social media, everyone's got a phone, they can see all the drama that's going on. So how do you think, like, watching that Bristol game, like we had a bit of a blip before, and then all this FFP and et cetera and embargo drama came out. Did you feel like that was having an effect on morale of the club?
Well, I think not just that, but I think a lot of things. The fact that we were 17, 18 points ahead 6 weeks ago, and the fact that everyone's talking about our downfall now, going into this international break, then coming out of it and going against Bristol, definitely the pressure is on us, not just with the FFP, but yeah, just looking back at the matches we had and just having a rough of matches consecutively, not playing well, and definitely the pressure was on us, and it definitely, we did see that against Bristol, which was a complete shock, I think, for everyone, going into the fact that we had an international break, time to rest, time to regroup, time to see what can work. But yeah, we definitely came off with a bit surprise against Bristol.
100%, mate. That was poor. We'll get on that just quickly. Gray is in. Gray, how are you, mate? I'm going good, thank you. I got an extra day off for my long weekend, so nice to have it with a Leicester City win. And Nate, how are you, mate? Thank you for tuning in. Watched Ipswich. How they get away with murder is very annoying. Ugh, we'll get into the matches soon. Yeah, but Jeff, the Bristol City, like, there was no bite in that game whatsoever. It never felt like we could have been playing for a couple of hours. We never would have scored. I know Kalechi scored, but it was offside. But this game, first 20 minutes, stressed. And we conceded that goal, and I was just like, oh, here we go. And I wonder how it was at the King Power. I reckon it would have got pretty toxic. But an absolute brilliant response from Keenan Drewsbury Hall. Talk me through that goal and how you felt about that.
Yeah, no, we were playing well coming starting the match. We were playing, had possession, creating opportunities, and then just with Norwich's set piece, that definitely was, you can tell that was practice in training. That was well prepared. The way I think Duffy was it that completely took KDH out of the way to kind of think into the first post. But as much as it really pissed me off, it was a beautifully well done corner for Norwich. And just looking at how we were playing well at the start, it's like, wow, we dominated the entire 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden Norwich score. But yeah, the pressure was on us, and definitely they almost scored too, another goal too, like a couple of minutes after the first goal for Norwich, they almost scored, but it was offside. But no, thankfully, we didn't lose our heads there. Quickly a crossover to Mavididi, was it? And then Mavididi crossing it into the center. And of course, KDH knowing how to find those crosses in, and beautifully done. And I think that's what really kind of got things going even more for us.
Yeah, huge. Like that response, like I was watching the game with Neil from Beyond the 90 and Anil, and I was saying, God, if we concede early, it's going to be stressful, and I don't know how we're going to respond. What I thought was that second half of the first half, I thought was excellent. Like we really looked like we were going to score again. I wish, halftime was almost a bit of a disappointment because you could really see that we were on the ascendancy. But before we go into the second half, Jeff, what did you like? That first goal, beautiful from Ndidi, was Jumavidi to keep it back in, and I think it was Dewsbury Hall that put it away. Now, that I don't know if you've noticed a lot, but we have been going for a lot of crosses into the box, and it was a little bit disappointing with a lot in the second half, but in the first half, and a lot of people's man of the match was Callum Doyle. I thought it was interesting because when teams don't have that high press against us, I think Callum Doyle was brilliant. When they sit back a bit more, and I thought Norwich actually shaped up quite similar to us, trying to build it out from the back in that first half. But Doyle, he offers a lot more and a lot different to JJ. JJ's got more pace, tracks his runner a lot better, although I think he's been off it for about a month. But Doyle was offering a lot in terms of versatility with his ball distribution going forward. I don't know how you felt about Callum Doyle.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of makes me want to choose Doyle instead of JJ. I think James Justin in his prime was very effective on the wings when he was with Harvey Barnes, making those 1-2s and just going over Harvey Barnes, but he hasn't been doing that lately. So the only thing he has to kind of give us is that pace, but he's not necessarily using that to our advantage. So at the moment, Callum Doyle has beautiful crosses from, across the pitch to Fatau or up front to whoever's up top, just like Vestergaard does. Vestergaard kind of sees those tight spaces to get those long balls or on the ground. So yeah, that's what's pretty much very important. And we saw multiple crosses over to Fatau from Callum Doyle.
Yeah, 100%. And there was I don't know if you remember, but there was, I think it might have been the second half, but there was one point where he came bursting up that left wing. And he passed it right across almost to the outside of the box to the other side. And I think it was to Winks. And I was just where's that come from? Just saying of his left foot, what he can offer compared to JJ is interesting sometimes. I thought he had a really good first half, Doyle. And but let's move on to the second half. I thought, mate, there's a lot of players that we could mention and moan about that have been offered for the last month, and Dewsbury Hall's one of them. But for me, that was one of his best performances this year. He was absolutely everywhere with his progressive ball carries, winning the ball back and turning it over. I know he skied one over the top after he scored his first goal, but when you're feeling confident and you've scored, I want him to take chances like that because he scored absolute pearlers from there before. I also thought that Ndidi's link-up play with Fatau they've always been brilliant, but seeing Ndidi get form again, that move that they do when Fatau carries the ball up and passes it to Ndidi outside the box and he dinks it in. It's excellent to see them two linking up together, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, and on multiple occasions we saw that, 1-2s with Fatau, and Ndidi has the pace. So yeah, it's great to see that he is effective. That's a player that we definitely needed. We were wishing we had in a long time, but with his injuries, couldn't play that many games at the start of the year. But yeah, like I said, the link-up plays with Fatau and Ndidi, very effective when it comes to creating opportunities to score on goal.
100%. And also, last time that we talked, we were I think it was around the time when Daka had those 3 good games in a row. And we were talking, moving forward, he deserves a chance. He deserves a run out. Talk to me about how you feel Daka performed. Do you reckon people are being harsh on him, or was he poor for you, Jeff?
Yeah, no. So I'll confess, at the start of the season, I was just begging for Enzo to give him a chance, to give Daka a chance, get one of the games. He has the pace, he's effective, but just recently he hasn't been just linking up with anyone, really. We haven't used Daka to the ability that we know he knows how to play. It just doesn't work, unfortunately. And yeah, no, these past 3-4 matches we've been having, including this one, he just hasn't been doing anything. It's been really a waste of space, honestly.
Oh, he's off the hype train. He's off. Craig, get in trouble before I answer that. Craig, how you going, mate? Doyle can pass better, switches his play well, he does. Before we get into this Mavididi goal, finish this Daka comment. Mate, he had a few moments where he could have linked up the play, but for me, he's a striker, and I don't even think he had a shot on goal that whole game. He had that one moment where I wasn't sure if he was trying to dink it over the keeper or pass it into space in front of himself, but that was poor. But at the same time, a lot of people would have been saying, there was another moment as well, actually, when he was on that left-hand side. I think it was Mavididi or Keenan Dewsbury Hall that took it up, and he had that one-on-one of the keeper, and the keeper did well to block it. He actually had a decent game, to be fair, but he came straight off the keeper, goes out for a corner. He is a striker. He can be so frustrating. A lot of people are saying, well, Vardy would have taken an extra step and scored that, and maybe he would have, but the reality was Vardy had a hat-trick of chances last week, so you couldn't really crucify him as much as you normally could. But for me, Cannon was injured. I would really like to see Kel get a run out if he's going to get subbed like for like with Vardy.
Yeah, no, and I think people were saying like Vardy coming on the last 15, those last 15, he did so much more than Daka did in those 75. And it's you just see the difference. Vardy, obviously his pace isn't where it was 10 years ago, 9 years ago, but he's still effective. He still knows the style. He can adapt. He's adapted to multiple managers that we've had in the past, but Daka just frankly isn't adapting, and those 1v1 situations hardly ever come for Daka. And when they do, he just misses. So it's really getting to the point where, like, as much as you like the player, it's just not working out for the club and for the future that we're trying to kind of progress and trying to develop a new striker.
Mate, you raise a very interesting point, actually, Jeff. He sometimes drops quite deep, and you see that for all of our strikers, and in terms of adaptability, Vardy's even been doing that. So you raise a very good point. But that game, not so much. And I think the problem is with you talking about those chances. Here's a great comment here, and I think this is why people are quite sour. Craig, Daka, movement poor, £23 million. That is why I think a lot of people are sour about it, because when we signed Daka, it was for squad depth, and we were playing European football at the time, Europa League, Europa Conference. And when we all look, everyone looks great in a highlight, but like he was I think it was RB Salzburg, and he was keeping at the time when they were playing together Haaland on the bench. He was the number one man. I think he had like 23 goals that season. My friend came to us. He looked like a monster, and I was like, oh, here we go. Like Vardy's not going to last forever. And now here we are, and Vardy's 37, and he's still the better option in a league below. So I think that's why people are quite frustrated with Daka. Yeah, there you go. Vardy was 1 million, Daka 23. Poor striker league to at best. Craig's definitely not on the hype train either.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, just with Daka coming in, we brought him in for the system to kind of play like Vardy as he played in 2015, where it's literally long balls and he goes chases them and can try to get those 1v1s. But with this system with Maresca, that's not what we're doing. We're trying to play as a team and mostly use the wingers, start up from the back and kind of pass along, forward to the goal. So it just, Daka's style of play, he just can't, unfortunately, he can't adapt to a different style other than just 1v1s and just pure pace. Unless we put him in the midfield to defend those, to be a defensive midfielder and obviously use the pace there. But as far as being a striker with Maresca in charge, he can't adapt.
He can't, and like he would never be able to do that anyway, like because he's like a stiff breeze would knock that man over. Like he's just there we go. They're grey. He's too flimsy. He's too weak for me on the ball, and that's what drives me crazy about him. But like I'll move on. But for me, moving forward, he's probably not going to be here next season, Kel, but I would still like to see him get some more games. Now let's touch on Ndidi. I think Ndidi was one of the most important players in the field. When he got injured, our form faltered. I think in ways, Jeff, he offers a lot and been able to win the ball back further up the field than we're normally used to seeing him, as well as his link-up play with Fatau that we just touched on earlier. I definitely think that we look a lot better when he's at his best, and he's definitely like taken a big step forward to getting back to form, because I thought he did have a very good game, particularly in the second half. But Pratt had his moments as well when he filled in for that position. Yunus, when he filled in that high-pressing 8, was... I like Yunus, but I just think it's a shame because he was brought in as a winger and he's been forced into a position when he has come on out of position in the high-pressing 8, and he's just not strong enough on the ball physicality-wise. But in terms of Ndidi, I think a massive thing of our form as well is those 4 games where we didn't really have Ndidi, longer than that, but also, the 4 games, I think it was Ricky P was out too. And then having no Ndidi, who is essentially still on paper a defensive midfielder, and then not having Ricky P behind him and having Chowdhury, is that whole right-hand side was just kind of left to their pants down, I think, for that blip. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, no, I think when Ricardo finally came on, at least for this match, you definitely see the difference in how effective attacking-wise him playing on the pitch does for us. And yeah, as soon as I saw after this match, I was already convinced like Ricardo has to start every single game. At this point, each game counts for us. We'll risk it if he gets injured, but like he needs to play at least every single chance that he has. Because Chowdhury, just doesn't do much as far as attacking and creating chances for goals. Come on, the last 15 minutes, yes, but to start, no, Ricardo all the way.
That's a huge one. Like, and it was an interesting tactic from Maresca as well, actually, because when he did, I expected, by the way, to see Ricky P start this game, because I thought last game, I was like, everyone's like, why didn't Ricky P start? Why did Hamza start? He's back from injury. But to be fair, like, yeah, we definitely need to be playing him as much as we can for this run out, yes, and risk it. But I think just coming back from injury and how close the games were between Bristol and Norwich, that I actually expected that, to be fair. But going into that, when they did get subbed off, he subbed Fatawa for JJ, which I've seen him do before on that right side, and then put Hamza in behind him. Now, I thought, not Hamza, yeah, it was. So I thought that made me feel a lot more comfortable, seeing JJ being there to be able to help Chowdhury on that right-hand side. I felt like it would be a lot less, because just for me, Chowdhury, like, I'm sick of seeing him get put in that position. It's the only thing that I would say is kind of a little bit Brendan Rodgers-esque with Maresca, because he does keep persisting with Chowdhury in that position, and it does not suit him. And this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but if we remove that fact that he is a Leicester City lad, in my opinion, we shouldn't have re-signed him for the money that we did. I think that's money that could be used elsewhere. I know that's going to sound harsh, but he's a jack of all trades, master of none. And in my opinion, he's a liability in that position.
No, I agree 100%. Same thing. I'm all for the academy players and giving them opportunities, but I think Chelsea has had so many opportunities to show what he has, and it just hasn't gone in the direction that we want to go. So, we can't say that we didn't give him the chance, because he had multiple chances. So I think, like, after this match and seeing Ricardo, the difference, I would agree on Chowdhury leaving either this coming summer or eventually. But yeah, definitely not one to be playing or starting for us.
And who else do we put in that position? Because I've always said for the longest time, like, in my opinion, JJ looks better on the right-hand side, but FaZe can't play the left, and I don't think Cody's going to play that left either. So you're going to have either JJ or Doyle as that left-sided centre-back. Now, that inverted position, if Ricky P is injured, do you think JJ could play that role? Because I know it's too late to be having this conversation, but, like, moving forward, like, if there was an embargo or we couldn't sign anyone and hypothetically we had to stick with what we had, we've seen Brandon cover in that position once for a half in an FA Cup game, and JJ was trialled in that position, if you all remember, quite early in the season, and maybe once or twice and never seen it again. But we're going to risk Ricky P for the rest of the season, but moving forward, we need somewhere else to play that position, and it's a very difficult position to play, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment with the players that we have, Brighton could be an alternative, but it's just the pace there is what makes the difference, and not really picking Brighton. I don't think Maresca wants to really risk Doyle and James Justin starting in the same match, because if either one gets injured, we're gonna put for that person that's injured, you're gonna put either Chowdhury on the left or or Albrighton on the right. So it's definitely, I think he wants one side to have a good backup. So Doyle, whether starting on the left, and then if need be, put JJ there. But if we're winning, obviously by one or by 2 goals, we can obviously put JJ on the other side. But I mean, I think the right side, that's how JJ started with us when he came to Leicester City. He started on the right side, and almost kind of supposed to be like a replacement for Ricardo at the time. So frankly, I think kind of just sticking with either JJ or Albrighton, in my opinion, I would put on. I honestly wouldn't put Chowdhury, because as we've seen so many times, he's lack in just coming back and defending. And I think the match against Chelsea, we saw the second goal was pretty much totally his fault, because he didn't come back.
Yep, 100%, mate. Just going to quickly get into a few of these comments. Craig says, Ricardo's quality, passing, dribbling, and shooting. Mate, he is quality. He's been an inverted wing back. He's been played on the other side and on the left side. He's been played as a high-pressing 8 on both sides as well. Absolute unit. I love Ricky P. There have been a couple of games where Chowdhury has been fantastic, but he's definitely not a right back. Yeah, Nate, I agree. I think it was the Leeds game. He was decent, but he's been a bit of a liability for me. Chowdhury has given 2 important goals away, failing to close the attacker down. That's the main thing that really drives me wild about him, Gray. Like, he's nowhere to be seen. And when you watch it on playback, a lot of these goals that we've been conceding, which is a lot, by the way, for the past month, it's been painful. Hamza, the only player who can fill in for when Ricardo when he's injured. Unfortunately, I feel like that's where we're at, Craig. JJ is not strong enough for that position. It's a fair shout, Craig, but I just wonder if, like, in terms of tracking back his runner and stuff like that, I think he'd be a lot more reliable than Hamza, but I could be wrong, mate. It's just something to entertain in my head. JJ can play both sides, but for me, he goes missing at times. Yeah, he has, Gray. He's been a bit off it for me the last month, and maybe he'll get a bit of a kick up the arse having Doyle playing well yesterday, so keep him on his toes and fight for that position. Last one. Nate, didn't McAteer play in that role for a half early in the season also? Nate, I remember that game you're talking about, and I'm pretty sure I remember being frustrated because he did drop well deep, but I can't remember if he was in that position because that same game, if you remember, that was when Kel was coming so deep that he was even receiving balls out from the back from Mads Hermansen. Do you remember that, Jeff, when it was just like, what is Kel doing? Like, but Jeff, what did you think on the sub-management this time? Because I thought it was quite painful with Bristol, but how did you feel? I know we won, but were you a little nervous around 60, 70 minute, like, right, I'm ready to see Vardy come on, or ready to see some rotations? How were you feeling about his game management?
Yeah, I think since if we're talking about the Bristol game, at halftime we had to make subs, but in terms of this one, we were still drawing 1-1. We kind of still had possession, so either or, by the 60th minute, we should have made subs, I think, in my opinion. We definitely see players tiring out, like Crimsbury Hall, like Ndidi, at times, but Maresca slowly is, trying to. I don't know what he's thinking, but he kind of makes those subs like around the 75th minute, 80th minute. I think it's too late.
Yep.
So I mean, luckily we scored a second goal first, so that kind of eased up the tension there. But I think either or at the moment, for the time being, we know how we are towards like the last 30 minutes. We get tired, so I think around the 60th minute is where we should start making subs, regardless of how the score is, whether we're winning or not.
100%. I agree, because like it's a little bit Rogers-esque with some of the subs, but I think that Enzo's a lot more comfortable making subs when we're up at least one goal. Like, anything goes past 2 goals, he'll make a massive rotation. You've seen that in the games that we've comfortably cruised by and, sort of put people to the sword. He'll make a heap of subs when we're comfortably ahead. But it's when we're looking a bit iffy, he looks a little bit apprehensive to make the changes. But I think he should just back himself and trust in the squad that we have at this league. I'm just going to, before he, I'll wait first, actually. I was going to pull up the table. The second goal, mate, Mavididi, how he found that space, I don't know. But before he scored that second goal, were you a little bit frustrated at Keenan Dewsbury Hall? He went onto his left foot, and no, he turned, I think, onto his right. He turned. I was like, oh, went onto his left. He's going to take a shot. And then he squared it to Mavididi, and he found space between the keeper and the defender. I thought it was brilliant, mate. What did you think?
Yeah. I know KDH was doing so many cutbacks even before that, but Mavididi just precision, literally just precision. Like a little, if the ball went a little more to the left or the right, they would have easily blocked it. But it was at the right, precise, just direction, bottom right, perfection.
It was perfect, wasn't it? It had like a little bit of curl to it as well, just tucked in. It looked like someone was playing like putt-putt golf, and it just slowly just went into the end. It was beautiful. Yeah. And their link-up play was on fire that game as well, him and KDH, Mavididi. I thought that was excellent. And then for the third goal, one of the subs, Pratt, controlling the ball well, turns, and then I think he went to, Winks. Winks had a shot, deflected off, and your boy Vardy was there to put it away. He needed that. We needed that. And the biggest talking point about this whole game was the reaction from the bench when we scored that third goal. That's what you want to see. When we're talking about the FFP drama and the issues and the stress and the morale of the club, that's what you want to see. We're still in this. We're still here. We want to win it. The boys are excited and happy. Look what it means to them. And then seeing the celebration of Maresca as well when the third goal went in. That's what you want to see, man. Positive vibes, and not like the end of last season where like people felt like they had nothing to play for. They knew they were leaving. They just felt like they didn't care. That's what I was starting to slightly worry about, to be honest with you, with all this FFP and embargo drama, where people's heads are going to be at, the uncertainty if they can be signed, etc. But seeing that has just like relieved me so much, because I was pretty nervous, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think hopefully like that this now is the starting point of completely different gameplay. We obviously to play like Maresca at the start of the season, just Maresca ball, ping pong pong, and then shoot and score. But yes, it was a much needed win for us. Definitely motivating, and honestly, just remaining matches, we probably have on paper the easiest schedule out of Leeds and Ipswich.
Thank you, mate. You just segued that perfectly before we wrap this up. Okay, so here we have the table. Can we see that on screen? Yes, we can. Okay. So, unfortunately, last night, both Ipswich and Leeds won. You can blame Jeff for that. He jinxed the Ipswich game. He jinxed it. It's his fault. But Ipswich, I wouldn't be mad if they went up, honestly. You like seeing those feel-good stories for those smaller clubs like us when we won it. So for them to come to League One, if they go up, hopefully us too, but if Ipswich were to go up after coming from League One and straight away possibly even winning the championship, I think that's brilliant. You got to give credit where it's due. But Leeds still in second. We have got a game in hand against both those sides. Southampton has 2, though, to be fair. But moving on to the matches moving forward, Norwich. Let's hope, Jeff, that they can turn it around against Ipswich, because that'd be brilliant for us to just hopefully leapfrog Ipswich. Should we be able to beat Birmingham at home as well? So I know games aren't played on paper, and we should have, again, on paper, comfortably or at least beaten Bristol City, but we didn't. This Birmingham game, mate, is again another massive game, Jeff. Hey, how much and how important was it not just to have a 2-1 win, but a 3-1? Because a lot of games people have said, we've just scraped by, and it was an ugly win, or we were lucky to get that. Even if the score had finished at 2-1, and let's say around the 80-minute mark, I would have walked away from that game going, you know what, we comfortably controlled that second half, and we looked confident, and we always have high possession, but we looked dangerous. And then we got the 3-1, and you saw the reaction we just talked about. So going into the Birmingham game, for morale, mate, how big is that?
Oh, it's a massive, massive, massive win. Now going to playing at home again, I think if anything, this match against Norwich was the big one to kind of see where our fate lies. And like I said, it was a big motivator to get this victory. And I think now, I predict us winning by more than 2 goals against Birmingham. That's what I predict. I think the motivation is there, the ambition's there, and then it's just going to click on Sunday.
You hear that, guys? If we lose, Jeff is the kiss of death. Come here and blame him. I'm just kidding. I'm hoping for a big win as well, because they're a bit of a shambles at the moment, unfortunately, Birmingham. Moving on, Coventry, who are fighting for that playoff position, and at home against Leeds. I'm not supposed to like Cov, but at the moment, Leeds fans have pissed me off. So let's go Cov for that game, so we can take the points and go ahead of Leeds, hopefully. And then we have, moving on, I'll go just one more round because I want to see this. Leeds and Sunderland, Cov and Southampton, and us versus Millwall. So again, hopefully we can go to the Den and get a win. Millwall have been bang average lately, but these games now we're starting to see, going to you saying we have a easier run out. Here right now, after winning that Norwich game, which is one of the most stressful ones before on paper, I really hope, mate, we need to win nearly basically every single game, because if people are in front of like Leeds and Ipswich are not going to drop points, we very well could be heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, but I mean, I saw a tweet and of showing Ipswich's remaining matches, and then it was like the caption is like Ipswich have to drop points. They just have to, and I just have a feeling like they will for some reason. At least for these next 2, Norwich. You never know what Norwich shows up. Luckily, we beat them, but I think the last encounter between Ipswich and Norwich was a draw. was a 1-1 draw or a 2-2 draw. So, and they're playing home too. So I don't think Norwich will let that slide that easily against Ipswich. So I have faith. I have faith in Norwich doing something, at least getting a point against Ipswich.
100%. I'm looking at it here, mate. I'll quickly pull it up before we get a team score out of you and your man of the match. But just here, we'll just quickly pull this up. I have the Norwich run-out games here. There we go. Okay. So they've got Norwich, Watford, who they're kind of on the beach. They're kind of not going anywhere. Borough, Hull. That's a big one. Hull have been picking up. I know they just lost, but they have been picking up some decent form. They've got some good players, signings they made in January. Cov, who are fighting for that playoff position. Huddersfield. Now, there's something to be said as well, Jeff, before we wrap this up, about the bottom three, the teams that are in that relegation dogfight at the business end of the season. They're going to be fighting, to make sure they don't get relegated. So there's something to be said for those teams as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anything, it's going to probably mess them up a bit more, trying to because they're going to be urging for goals, and that might mess up their formation and stuff, which I think could be up to our advantage. But yeah, as you were saying.
Oh, yeah, 100%, mate. Look, we'll leave it there for the other games. All we can worry about, the destiny is in the palm of our own hands. All we can do is worry about our games and how we play. And if Norwich has anything to go by, then the fire is not dead. Quickly get those comments, and then I'll get a man of the match and team performance out of you, Jeff. Millwall away used to be a nightmare fighting on and off the pitch. Yeah, no one likes Millwall. We bossed it yesterday. We need to win every game, ball in our court. 100%, Craig. Saints, it's just like us, had tractor boys on the rack, but couldn't finish them off. Jeff, who was your man of the match that game?
I think it has to be between Fatu and KDH. Fatu, I think, because he was much more effective on the ball and definitely linking up with Ndidi. And then, of course, Kingsbury Hall for scoring. But I think the most effective and kind of gave us more opportunities was Fatu. So that would be my man of the match.
Interesting, mate. He did get proper stuck in. You know what you're in for with him. And he got a few opportunities over, but he was everywhere. His link-up play was brilliant. He gets people into the game. So that's a very good shout, Jeff. For me, personally, I've already gone for a man of the match on LTRD TV. Please check them out, guys, if you haven't already. But he actually went for Tau as well. But Chris did. So I went for Keenan Dewsbury Hall just because of particularly of where his performance have been as of lately, and to see him confident again. Like I said, he's winning balls back. He was everywhere. His link-up play of Mavadidi, his crosses in the box. He was excellent. So for me, Dewsbury Hall as well for his goal. And team performance, Jeff, out of 10, what would you go for?
I'd go with a 7.
A 7?
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of improvement needs to be done, but for the win, especially scoring 3 goals, a 7.
A 7, that's fair, mate. And would you say that improvement area is in set pieces for us?
I say that the improvement is just flow of the ball, possession, creating plays, and keeping possession. I think that's what improved compared to the last match against Bristol.
Yeah, and I think that the possession and the pace, they picked up a lot that second half. We were quite slow in the first, so I actually agree with you. I do feel like we didn't look confident. We looked almost like we were playing hot potato. No one wanted to have possession that first 10, 15 minutes. They almost looked scared, but as the game grew on, we got more and more confident. You could see that pace pick up. So 7 out of 10 is fair. I went already a 9 on another channel. I'm going to have to stick with it purely just because of how stressed I've been and like how the other games have been. I reckon if we had that performance maybe earlier on the season, I probably would have given it an 8. But for me, I had to go 9 just because I was just so elated after that third goal. So I think I got a bit excited and I've got to stick to it now. Gray's gone for Keenan Dewsbury Hall for his man of the match. 9 out of 10 for Dewsbury Hall performance. Team, Gray, it's 8.5 out of 10. This is my channel. I do halves in this channel. Chris doesn't allow it. He's a tyrant. So, yeah, you can have halves are welcome here. Keenan Dewsbury work rate was phenomenal. It was 100% because he's been looking quite leggy before that break. So maybe it did him well. Jeff, I really appreciate you coming on, mate. You're a legend. And I've put your channel in the description of the video and the title, but give everyone a shout out where they can find you.
Yeah. So I see there, Fox Report on Instagram, YouTube, and also TikTok.
And you had a bit of a break, Jeff, but you started making videos again, which is nice to see, mate. So I always enjoy watching your content.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. If you like this, like and subscribe, comment, all the good stuff, and I will catch you on the next one.